course, let's give you the facts.
Well, here's what you need to know. The key figure in this story is Indian billionaire Anil Ambani. He's an ally of Narendra Modi, the Prime Minister of India. Ambani and Epstein were in close communication. Epstein and Ambani talked about setting up meetings with former Israeli Prime Minister Yehud Barrack, the head of NATO, Tom Pritzker, the billionaire chairman of Hyatt Hotels, and Tom Barrack, the chair of Trump's first inaugural committee. We don't know how many of those meetings actually materialized, but what's clear is that Ambani wanted to be in contact with world officials and Epstein was willing to help connect him. However, Epstein did refuse Ambani's request on at least one occasion. In March 2017, Ambani wrote the following to Epstein. Hello, was in Delhi. Leadership would like your help for me to meet Jared and Bannon ASAP. Please advise. Likely visit to DC by PM in May to meet Donald, also assistance on that. Ambani is referring to Jared Kushner, Steve Bannon, and Donald Trump. But Epstein told Ambani that he should meet with Barrack instead. Steve and Jared are meeting 15 people a day, mostly meet and greet with little follow-up. The State Department is way understaffed. MBS's meeting took time to set, and was basically a waste of time, though photo op was what they wanted. It's early for anything meaningful. You should meet with Tom Barrack. Just a few months later, in June of 2017, Modi would meet with Trump. Shortly after, Modi visited Israel, making him the first Indian prime minister to do so. India had a chilly relationship with Israel prior to that year. In July of 2017, Epstein wrote the following message to a recipient by the name of Yabor Y. The Indian Prime Minister Modi took advice and danced and sang in Israel for the benefit of the US president. They had met a few weeks ago. It worked. The same day, Epstein sent the following message to Ambani. Your guy's performance was both clever and executed well. Good work. So what did Ambani hope to gain from his relationship with Epstein? Based on the reporting, we can't say for sure, but here's what we do know. The Indian billionaire had substantial business interests in Israel. The previous year, his company, Reliance Defense Limited, had entered a joint venture with Rafael Advanced Defense Systems Limited, a state-owned Israeli defense firm, to produce air-to-air missiles and air defense systems in a deal valued at $10 billion over a decade. In 2017, India was reported to be the largest buyer of Israeli weapons, having bought $715 million worth of weaponry, according to the Stockholm International Peace Research Institute. As for Epstein's feelings about India and Israel, 2 days after Modi's visit to Israel, concluded, Larry Summers asked Epstein if he still thought Trump is a better president than Hillary Clinton would have been. Epstein responded affirmatively, stating, yes, definitely, India, Israel, for example, great, and all his doing. Cenk.
Yeah, so lots of super interesting information in here. So first of all, yet another deal that Epstein arranges for Israel. But again, all of national media can't see it. They can't see a single connection. They apparently can't read, but it's gonna get much worse. Earlier in the show, we reported about how he arranged a deal with JP Morgan Chase and Netanyahu for the Leviathan oil field, and now they've announced a $35 billion deal many years later with Egypt about that field. Who arranged that deal? Jeffrey Epstein. Who arranged this deal to get India and Israel and the US more aligned? Jeffrey Epstein. Okay, so to me, a disturbing part of that was the way that he seemed to revel in making the Indian prime minister dance for them. And I don't know, that to me, for whatever reason, that was stomach churning. Oh yeah, he danced and sung for us, basically. Okay, India, is that what you want? You want to dance and sing for Israel? And okay, that's your leader apparently then. So he did it, he did whatever Epstein asked him to do. Okay, pause there. My God, how powerful is Epstein? We were told, oh, random pedophile down in Florida. Pedophilia is bad, yeah. Oh, I guess he's rich. Oh, I guess he has a couple of rich friends. No, he's arranging deals with world leaders nonstop. And every single time it is for the benefit of Israel. This is the national media in this country is a joke. Okay, so now we go to he's all these other folks that he arranged. Tom Pritzker, that's normal, arguably, right? I'm not saying anything he did is normal, but like, okay, Epstein's a businessman, Tom Pritzker is a businessman. Businessmen know each other. Not a big deal, okay? Epstein arranges a meeting for his contacts in India with the head of NATO. Wait, what? How does Epstein know the head of NATO and can arrange for a businessman to meet with the head of NATO anytime he wants? And our entire national media doesn't think that's interesting, doesn't think that that shows that maybe Epstein had political power, governmental power to be able to arrange meetings like that. And these are all in the files that our government has known about this entire time. So our government knew that one of the most powerful men on earth who could arrange almost any meeting with any foreign leader or the richest men in the world was running a pedophile ring where other super powerful and rich people were participating, and not only never told us about it, but covered it up on his behalf. And our media doesn't think that's interesting. They report about the sex, they report about the celebrities, and now some of the rich people, but they never report about the government. They never report about how our government obviously knew how incredibly powerful this guy was, and obviously also potentially made him that powerful. So look, every deal is done on behalf of Israel, but every deal is known by the United States government. So then that makes me wonder, wait, why is the US government working on behalf of Israel? That's the most important and interesting question. Now, if you say, hey, wait, Cheng, I don't know. Okay, fine, head of NATO, and fine, you've showed me dozens of other cases where he arranges meetings with Putin and Mongolia, African countries, and not this one. They're talking about Petraeus, and now Petraeus is the former general that was in charge of Iraq, Afghanistan at different times. He was our top general, and then he became the head of the CIA. So the Indian businessman asked him about Petraeus potentially being the ambassador to India, and they said, look, we need a strong ambassador because we got to deal with Pakistan and stuff. And Epstein's like, oh yeah, Pakistan sucks, right, Muslims, oh terrible, yeah. Oh, Israel loves this, more people attacking Muslims. Okay, so that's normal so far, or what counts as normal in this insane world. But get a load of what Epstein then writes to Ambani. He says, when asked about Petraeus, Tillerson is normally in charge of search. At the time, Rex Tillerson was the Secretary of State, and he'd be in charge of who would be appointed ambassador to India. But Epstein continues, Donald liked Petraeus, but again, Pentagon wary. His use of tradecraft email sticks in their craw. How does Jeffrey Epstein know what the Pentagon thinks about the former head of the CIA? And you're telling me he wasn't involved in our government? And our government didn't cover up for him. Now look, you're not telling me that because you're a regular person and you're not like, I run out of adjectives to describe the people in power, right? But any normal person understands, obviously, he's helping the Israelis and the US government knows and is aiding and abetting him get access to all of these things, including what our Pentagon thinks, in order to help the Israelis. But not a single national media reporter has pieced this together. Only independent outlets like Drop Site News. ABC, CNN, New York Times, Washington Post are like, yeah, that's totally normal. Yeah, I ran into we did that story on this random pedophile in Nevada, right? Bob or whatever his name was. And Bob was always arranging meetings with the head of NATO and knew exactly what the Pentagon was thinking and was doing, procuring cyber weapons for Israel, right? Is that what you think? If you're a reporter out there and you cover politics and you haven't covered these stories like this, you're pathetic. Please retire and go into plumbing where you could actually earn an honest living. Jordan, what do you think?
Yeah, I think the status of some of these people that Epstein was trying to facilitate meetings with, if anybody is familiar with how those types of figures operate, there's a tremendous amount of vetting and background checks that go into many meetings. Just remember, his first arrest was in 2008. They knew about this. The investigation started in 2005. We're talking about emails, correspondence, and potential meetings in 2017. So, of course, we see much more detail from reporting from Drop Site, from commentary on here, from reporting elsewhere that validates this theory, even at a core level. They knew what was happening. They knew what he did and who he was, and they were okay with it. You could argue that simply because of his wealth or purported wealth. I don't think that's it anymore. At first, you and I talked about it, Jag. When this first started to emerge, I was very reluctant to accept any national security or intelligence ties to Epstein. And the more we learn, the more undeniable it seems. The emails that he wrote, that people wrote to him, the interests and the figures that people wanted to either secure or meet. It's hard to ignore all of these details adding up. And the fact that we're talking about the head of NATO, one of the wealthiest hotel CEOs, founders, chairs, former prime ministers. You don't get access to these people if you just happen to be wealthy. There are many wealthy people who still would have a barrier to access them. There was something unique about Epstein and his role in that upper echelon of society that I don't think is simply because he had a party island.
Yeah, it's super obvious. We don't need to debate it anymore. Only the liars are covering up the story. And so now what's amazing about the Epstein story is now we know how the world works. This is how they set up meetings. This is the kind of guy who runs it. And by the way, in the midst of that Petraeus talk, Epstein jokes around about, oh, your next ambassador should be a tall, blonde Swedish woman. And then the Indian billionaire responds with, ooh, can you arrange that? And in all of these emails, there's always these subtle and oftentimes not at all subtle references to, oh yeah, bring the girls. So all of those conspiracy theories, but which by the way, I would have dismissed a year ago, 2 years ago for sure, about how world leaders are sick people who are doing these, with these underage girls and doing crazy stuff. I mean, some of the things in the files are unreal. I mean, we reported on one the other day where one of the confirmed survivor talks about after she was raped at 16 by one of the richest men in the world, she delivers a baby and then they take the baby from her and she never sees the baby again. You couldn't have gotten me to believe that. If 2 years ago you told me Epstein is secretly working for the Israelis and he arranges all these things and he knows all these world leaders and he can arrange any meeting, I would have said, hey brother, come on man, you're gonna need overwhelming evidence for that. It sounds like a conspiracy theory. Well, guess what? We got overwhelming evidence. So apparently that's how the world works.